Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending what time of the day you are watching this video. This is the class for Thursday, March the 7th, 2024. So if you're watching this, make sure that you do this before our next class meeting, which would be on Wednesday the 13th. So next week, Wednesday the 13th and the 14th, we'll have normal class, okay? We're going to start with our student book. So you could see here the student book, page 94. So page 94 in your student book, please. Okay, so page 94, it's a grammar lesson, and we are going to be learning about adverbial clauses of time. So you might ask yourself, what is an adverbial clause of time? So an adverbial clause of time is telling you when the action happens in relation to another. So for example, here, we're talking about time. We use when, as soon as possible, as soon as, until, or after. So these are all what we call adverbs of time. For example, when there is the possibility of a hurricane in the next 36 hours, comma, the National Weather Service issues a hurricane watch. So here we have two different things that are happening. This one here is the main clause. Main clause meaning that it is the most important information. Sorry, I can't type this morning. There we go. Most important, ooh, that's a bad color. Most important information. And then the second box that we have, or the circle that we have here, is what we're relating it to the time. So here we see the next 36 hours. When? Yesterday. When? Last week. When? Today. So when we use when, we are identifying time. For example, when I go to Salinas on Sunday, I usually do my grocery shopping and other things. Okay, so that would be an example. Now, with adverbial clauses of time, as you could see in this example down here, we can also use the main clause first and the adverbial clause second. Okay, it will still be an adverbial clause. So sentences that begin with the adverb clause use a comma to separate the adverb clause and the main clause. Okay, now let me do the same sentence right here normally, and you're going to see the difference. So then I would say the National Weather, forgot to make capital letter, Service issues a hurricane watch when there is the possibility of a hurricane in the next 36 hours. So look at the difference. Let me change the color because I'm going to move it over. Okay. So if we see this example here, you could see the big difference. The National Weather Service issues a hurricane watch when there is a with this possibility of a hurricane in the next 36 hours. This one here, the main clause would go first, and then the time clause or the adverb clause goes second, okay? When it starts with when, as soon as, until, or after, that's when you will have the comma. But if I start with the main clause first, I don't need the comma, okay? So I hope that makes it clear. Let's go ahead and look at the second example. As soon as you hear the warning, comma, make sure that your emergency preparations are complete. Kind of like what we talked yesterday in class. Okay, so that's with starting with the adverb of clause first and the main clause second. I can also do it the other way. I can say, make sure that your emergency preparations are complete as soon as you hear the warning. I can also do that, okay? But in this activity, we will be practicing using the sentences starting like this with the adverb clause of time. Next one. Until the weather service cancels the storm watch, comma, you should check the weather report regularly. Okay. Last one. After they hit land, comma, hurricanes lose strength. So these are all examples starting with adverb clause of time first and the main clause second. So if we look at here, we see that adverb clause of time use words like when, before, after, or as soon as to tell when one action happened in relation to another. That means these actions here are in relation to this action right there. So that means they are related. They go together. Sentences. Now, this is the very important part, and let me highlight this part. Sentences can begin with the adverbial clause or the main clause. Okay, so remember the example I showed you before? Look at this one here. After they hit land, comma, hurricanes lose strength. We can also say hurricanes lose strength after they hit land. So you could see how in this one, let me do a different color. This one here, comma, this one here. But if I do the main clause first and the time clause second, I can also do it like this. The only thing that I don't put would be the comma. So the first thing you're going to do in your student book on page 94 is that you are going to, part A, you're going to underline the adverb of clause, the adverb clause of time. So for example, number one, after lightning flashes in the sky, you hear the sound of thunder. So you're going to underline the adverb clause. We look at number two, when the sky turns dark, the sky usually turns dark before a thunderstorm begins. Okay, so we want to underline the adverb of time. So in this case, we're looking at these right here. So then, before a thunderstorm begins would be the adverb clause. So it could be when, as soon, until, after. It can also be before, even though it wasn't on the list. Number three, when there's a thunderstorm, you should not stand under a tree. So then on this one here, the adverb clause would be when there's a thunderstorm. Now, I know I'm going back and forth, but you see that when was at the top over here. I can't make it. Let me see if I can make it smaller. No, I can't. Number 4, get inside a building or a car as soon as you see lightning. Okay. So on this one here, the adverb clause would be as soon as you see lightning. And number 5, you should stay inside until the thunderstorms end. So here the adverb clause, until the thunderstorm ends. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the next part, part B. So again, if you need to watch this again, you could press pause on the video and check your work for part A. Part B. Complete the sentences using when, before, until, or after. Blank scientists predict storms like tornadoes quickly and correctly. They save lives. Blank, they had technology to help them do their job. Meteorologists worked slowly. Their work became easier and faster. Blank, they began using computers. Today, weather forecasters give up to 30 minutes advanced warning. Blank, a tornado actually arrives. As a result, people have time to find a safe place to stay. Blank, the storm is over. For example, blank powerful tornadoes passed through Oklahoma in 1999. Only 44 people died. However, 695 people lost their lives and 2,000 more were injured in 1925 because the tornadoes went through just in a few minutes. Blank, people had received the tornado warning. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to use the words right here to complete the sentences. So at this time, go ahead and please press pause on the video. Do the work. When you do the work, press play so you could check your answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the answers now. So we will look at, so we said for the first one, before they had technology to help them do their job. Next one, their work became easier and faster after they began using computers. Next one, the correct answer is before. Weather forecasters give up to 30 minutes advance warning before a tornado actually arrives. Next one is until. Have time to find a safe place to stay until the storm is over. Next one, when. For example, when powerful tornadoes passed through Oklahoma in 1999. And the last one is after. In 1925, because the tornadoes went through in just a few minutes after people had actually received the tornado warning. So they got the warning, and then after the warning, a few minutes later, that's when the tornado hit. Okay. Check your answers again, please. Okay, so now we're going to be looking on page 95. So page 95, put in order. Decide which events in the brackets occurred first, mark a number 1, and the other events occurred later, number 2. For example, tornadoes occur when cold, dry air from Canada meets warm, moist air from the Gulf in Mexico. So what happens first? A tornado or cold, dry air from Canada meets warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. So this one happens first, and this one happens second. Number 2, after the winds of a tornado begin to turn in a circular direction, they move faster and faster. Okay, so which one would be first? Okay, so the first one would be this one, and the second one would be this one. So first, the tornado begins to turn in a circular direction. That means it starts spinning. Once it starts spinning, it starts moving faster and faster. So go ahead and do number 3, 4, 5, and 6, please. Press pause on the video. Please press pause so you could do the work, and then press play to check your answers. So this is part 2 of the video. Give me 1 second. Because the other video, when I was recording, there was a little problem. Give me 1 sec. Can't see my video. Oh, I don't know why that. Okay. So going back to where we were originally, we will check page 95, part C. So putting in the correct order. So number 2, the first part is, after the winds of the tornado begin to move in a circular direction, number 2, they move faster and faster. So I think that one was covered on the other video. Number 3, before the tornado arrives in the area, you will usually hear a loud warning siren. So first, you will hear the warning siren, and then the tornado arrives in the area. So first you hear the warning, and then the tornado happens. Number 4, until scientists learned some basic facts about tornadoes, they had trouble predicting them. So what happened first? They had trouble predicting. That means knowing when it was going to happen. And number 2, after that, they started learning some facts about tornadoes. So then they were able to predict them. So first they had trouble, and then they learned facts about tornadoes. Now they could predict them. Number 5, when the violent winds of a tornado hit buildings, serious structural damage often occurs. So first, the tornado hits, and second, structural damage happens. That means it gets destroyed. Number 6, the Weather Service personnel use weather radar to confirm a potential tornado before they issue a tornado warning. So first, they need to confirm a potential tornado before they issue the warning. Because if they do the warning and nothing happens, people are going to hear the warnings and they're going to say, oh, nothing's going to happen. So that's why first they need to make sure that a tornado is developing before they do the warning. Okay, so check your answers for part C. Go ahead and put pause on the video if needed. Part 4, or part D, I'm sorry. Use the adverbs to combine the 2 sentences. Keep the sentences in the same order. Include a comma if necessary. Okay. So let's look at this one here. The military used radar during World War I. They wanted to know the location of planes and ships. So we used when. So here we have when. Okay. So on this one here, you have the adverb of time at the end, and then we are going to use it correctly in the sentence. So number 2, radar worked very well. There was bad weather. Okay. So go ahead and complete your sentences and then press pause to the video. And once you are done, press play to check your answers. One thing to remember, you want to make sure what is the action that happened first. You want to identify the action that happened first. That would go over here, and then you would use the adverb time. Okay, so for number 2, radar worked very well until there was bad weather. So first, radar worked, and second, bad weather. So then until was the factor, so we would have until as the time. Now, even though it says to keep the sentences in the same order, I think that's a mistake because some of the sentences are not in the same order. Some of them, for example, this one starts with as soon as it begin to rain or snow, which is this part. Radar operators noticed that something strange happened with their equipment. Or we could say, radar operations noticed that something strange happened with their equipment as soon as it began to rain or snow. So again, there's different ways we could do it. The book kind of explains it in a way, but does it a little bit different. Next one. So we would say after the war ended, scientists were able to improve the radar technology to filter out the effects of rain or snow. So in this one again, so what we're noticing is that they're using, even though it says to keep it the same and use it in the middle, for example, here, it seems that they're using the adverb of time at the beginning. So again, it's something that the book confuses a little bit. And the last one, we use when the improvements to radar were made, comma, finding the location of ships and planes became easier. Okay, so again, it seems that they did keep the information the same. For example, here, began to rain or snow, began to rain or snow, or this one here, the war ended, or improvements were made, and it seems that we're adding the adverb of time at the beginning, which kind of didn't make sense because it says here, keep the same order, include a comma if necessary. It didn't say to use the adverb first, but okay. We got that part. Let me... Now, let's go ahead and look at our workbook, please. So let's go ahead and look at our workbook. Okay, so in the workbook, we are going to look at, so yesterday we did part D. Let's go ahead and look at on page 54. So let me put here. So workbook, page 54 and 55. So first, let's go ahead and look on the workbook, page 54. Okay, so on page 54 of the workbook, part 1, it says, read the weather report. Read the weather report. Underline 5 more time clauses. Okay, so go ahead and press pause on the video, do the 5 more, and then we'll check our answers. So once you check here, you could check your answers. So until we get to the weekend, but things will get better after this front passes. So here's the second one. After this front passes, it will be drier next week, but it'll be cooler too. So you may want to take a warm jacket when you go to work on Monday. So this is the second one. When. So notice after, when. Next one is before. We're also getting reports of some flooding in the northern parts of the state. So if you're heading up that way, check the forecast before you head out. So what do we mean by head out? Head out is another expression to leave. So before you leave your house or before you head out. We will let you know what is happening up there as soon as we have more information. Again, the as soon as. And the last one, I'll be back with more weather news after the sports update. So stay tuned. Okay, so make sure that you underline these here. Again, press pause to check your answer or make any corrections. Okay, so in class, when we met on Wednesday, give me 1 second here. We had done part D. Right now we did part A. Now let's go ahead and look on page 55 and look at part C. So we're going to look at this one right here, part C. So it says, complete the text. Use the words given below. So we have after, as soon as, before, until, and when. We already used when, so we don't use when no more. Read the paragraph, write the correct answers. Please press pause, do the work, and then play to check your answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our answers. So when Rita Montero and her husband Al heard the hurricane warning, they quickly boarded up. So you could see here, boarded up. That means to cover the windows, all the windows and doors. Number 2, before they left home, they packed 2 suitcases. The couple left the area as soon as they were ready. They stayed in a motel until it was safe to return home. After the hurricane was over, Al and Rita decided to move to a different area. Okay, so those are the answers to the story. Again, read it again to yourself. So that would be the end of this Thursday, March the 7th work. So make sure that you do the work and have the answers in your student book and in your notebook. And I will check it next week. That way you could do it. I could claim attendance for you. Okay. I will see you all next week. Thank you.